Many of us move to Vermont for its rural beauty, its strong sense of community, and its independent spirit. When you travel our country and tell others you are from Vermont, usually a wistful look comes over their face as they tell you how lucky you are. But as the old New England saying goes, if you don't like the weather, wait a minute. Nothing in life is static, and as we change and grow older, our needs and interests may change as well. Clearing a snowy path when you're 70 years old is different than picking up a shovel when you're 30. Getting around to medical appointments can require considerable driving in sometimes challenging conditions. This is why some people, after taking stock of how their needs have changed, decide to move closer to town, to be closer to medical and social services, shopping, recreational, art, and civic activities. This decision is not for everyone, but for those who make it, in addition to the relief of easier day-to-day living, there are some unexpected benefits that enrich their lives. We are pleased to share with you the story of Janet Kramer, a Marlborough resident who, upon recognizing that her needs were changing as she aged, moved from her beloved house in the mountains to a new home near the center of Brattleboro.
I'm Janet Kramer. I'm a 73-year-old now, resident of Brattleboro.
My husband and I lived full-time in Marlborough, Vermont, in a house built on a mountaintop, and we lived there full-time for, 15 years. Al's 75, I'm 73. Getting to it meant going up dirt roads and a very steep driveway. When I'm trying to explain to people why I decided to move, I frequently put it this way: that it takes a certain level of hubris to live on a mountaintop in your later 60s. The hubris is believing you can do so without any changes. We knew we both wanted to end up living in Vermont in our old age. We thought we wanted to end up living on a mountaintop in our old age in Marlborough. That's pretty much the way it, not all the way it did when I lived here, but it's nice to see it. This is exactly what was so special about this place, just looking over at the view there, but just the sense of being out in space. And we decided to buy this piece of land in 1978. And then in 1980, we built the central part of the house, 28-foot, story and a half cube with the woodshed 14 by 28 out behind. The struggle of making sure that the field gets mowed and the things get plowed and water, when it freezes up, gets unfrozen. Those are challenges of living in the country, which I'm just as happy to leave to somebody else now. The delight of building it and adding onto it and making it my own doesn't go away. That stays whether I'm living here or not. I can miss something. That's the meaning of being attached to something. I also discover I'm glad I don't live here anymore, and I wasn't sure I'd feel that way. To look over and see the green fields, the Whitney fields over on, Upper Dover Road. And know, when I first started living here, I didn't know all of those connections, and gradually made those here. And now I'm making those in Brattleboro in different ways. But it fit for me. It doesn't fit for everybody, but it does fit for me to love this place and yet be able to let go of it. We're in Morningside Commons, which is a development of 166 separate either townhouse or apartment residences. Matter of fact, started at the same time that I moved to Marlborough full-time in 1988 after Al's foot surgery, and we had to build a ramp to get him into the bathroom. We decided we'll perch here in Morningside and then maybe find a house in Brattleboro. In March of 2002, we were the owner of this condo. And we discovered that it was where we wanted to stay instead of where we wanted to perch.
it really meant deciding, okay, we're going to make it comfortable for ourselves. And one of the things we did was to move stones down from the property in Marlborough, 3 truckloads of stones down, to build the stone wall I'm sitting on, so that in many ways we kept some of the reminiscences of the places that were so fond, I was so fond of.
If you need help, help is a lot harder to get when you live out on the mountaintop. I worked for the visiting nurses and know just how difficult it was to get a homemaker to come out to someone who wanted to live alone way out where she had always lived or where he had always lived. Certainly, while I was in the hospital, it made such a difference to be able to come and go quickly. I didn't have to worry about an ambulance to get him to the hospital, and that made a big difference.
I think in many ways we're doing what a lot of people are now looking to do, not because they're worried about physical things, but they're worried about being able to afford gasoline. I used to commute 143 miles round trip 5 days a week to going up to White River Junction to work as a social worker at the VA hospital there. We are so close to town. I can, if I have the time and energy, walk to my office right opposite the Common. I can walk to the theater. I can walk to the museum. If I want to, I can walk to the train station about a quarter of a mile and take a train to Manhattan. But to come to a full-time professional career later in life meant that I was able to bring a lot of life knowledge to it. And I'm not tired, so I'm delighted to continue working. And it's much easier doing that living here in town rather than having to drive back and forth the way I used to have to do it from Marlborough. As I was working as a geriatric social worker at the VA, I worked with families who would cling to the idea of staying in their home. And I heard it from my husband's doctor this morning that he was going to come out of his house feet first. That takes a lot of energy to live in a separate house for that long. And I guess I wanted to leave Marlborough while I still loved it, before it was a burden to me. I didn't realize as the taxes went up and I realized I would have had to leave it on a regular basis for a very long time in order to be able to afford to live there. And that wasn't what I wanted in a place I really loved. So I decided, okay, I'll bring the stones. They're represent part of what Marlborough has meant for me. I will create a home here rather than just regret what I had created before. I think you can enjoy your surroundings almost anywhere. I was surprised to realize that we could live in 1,037 square feet. What I don't miss, driving up Route 9 in a sleet storm. The rain would turn to sleet. If I couldn't get down out of my driveway, I couldn't come to work. And there were days when I couldn't do that. And I was told the best thing you could have in living out there is a good snowplower and a good tow truck, so that when you get caught in the mud, there was someone to pull you out. When it was snowing, someone who had made sure you could get home in the evening.